taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleach to get light to white?
Well, but he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his limit is a fire conference. You have to go to him and ask him that.
Peace to the planet. Peace to the planet. Peace to the planet. Let's go and tap in, fam. Let's go and tap in. I told y'all yesterday that we're gonna drop tonight. I told you guys it was happening. It's here. So let's go ahead and get the shares out. Let's share this shit. Spread the word. Y'all know what time it is, man. People tapping in. People tapping in yesterday. People tapping in early. Like super early, like 7 o'clock early. We supposed to go in at 10. I decided going at 9:30. Catch y'all off guard. You know what I'm saying? Share this shit. Y'all already know what time it is, man. Crumb in the building. CrumbTV in the building. This a wowzer. This is a wowzer. Blackbeard Mirage. I got a comment on my YouTube, and it was like, "You gotta bring back Blackbeard Mirage back. You gotta bring the bro back. You gotta bring him back." They said you gotta bring him back. And y'all already know, man. No introduction is needed. Good brother Crumb, what's going on, man?
Peace and love, Almighty. All is truly well. How are you?
All is well, man. Happy New Year, brother.
Oh yeah.
Almost, I think. Almost. Well, it's
Yeah.
springtime.
Yeah. Tax time. The word Callan means tax, but yeah, when tax time comes along.
Teach. What's been new?
Well, ever since YouTube shut me down, I've been jumping like Jordan. I've been
Wait a
jumping
minute,
like
man. I almost freaking choked, bro. I almost fucking choked. Bro said YouTube. Oh boy. That's fucking hilarious. That's hilarious. They shut you down? Like what? Like what? Like can you get into the particulars, or is it like an open case? What's happening?
Oh, well, you know me. In the land of free speech, there is no such thing as hate speech. But yeah, hate speech, most definitely. And I would say most of our people have never said anything outside of what Massa wants or allows us to say. But the deeper, the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, the more silent the tea becomes.
Oh God. Oh God. That was so deep. That's what's up, brother. Well, let's. I'm glad you hit me up. As soon as you hit me, I'm like, yes, let's get this body of work out. This is something that I've been talking about for a long time. Since I was doing I did some shit called Africans in America, and I was pointing out like, hey, these are different people. Fuck Juneteenth. I was pointing out, hey, these are different people. Like these are not the same black people. When I went through the history of the HBCUs and showing how they got founded, I'm like, these are different people. So today we're gonna show y'all these people. And this out of Africa thing and this slave story may not be true anymore. Not all the way. I don't know. Blackbeard Mirage tapping in. What's up, brother? What do you think about this?
What's good, man? Major salute to everybody out there. We back, continuing to push the line with this enlightenment. Um, I'm with you on that. The way that we were taught this story about, the African slave trade, either through public education or in some form of entertainment. We were led and lied and deceived when it comes to this story. So now that the truth is available for us to look into, I think that we should all put it out, but we should be humble and I like that, mindset of being the master student. We all got to be willing to sit back and accept that maybe we were inaccurate on some certain things and update our knowledge and understanding.
Mm,
But this is a very, very serious thing that we're dealing with. And this was a masterful form of witchcraft that we were put under. So don't
wow.
beat yourself up if may have believed or thought some of this propaganda that they put out may have been true. Like some of us may have believed that the African slave trade story was true, um, and a lot of other things. So I would say, yeah, the main thing I want to put out there before we start this journey is to, we're gonna all be humble, to ourselves, so we can actually receive the accurate information and update it and continue to push this line. So, let's go on this journey.
It's long. It's long. Well said, brother. Well, brother Chrome, we're not gonna dally long. I want you to well, let's do this. Let's do this. Forgive me. Let's do this. How we always do it. Let's hop in these comments and see who's rocking with us real quick. I apologize. Housekeeping rules. My bad. My bad. I almost forgot. In tradition, the first responders. And keeping in tradition with CrumbTV, the first responders. Good brother, you want to do the honor?
Yeah, so it looks like we have 19B Def BP. He says, Miss Brother Crumb, and keep linking up with Blackbeard Mirage. Shout out to you. We see you, we love you, appreciate you, humbled and honored and grateful. Always, this is a usual suspect, Solo. He says, peace and love to the ancestors. I see you, I love you, appreciate you. And this is my A1 since day one. I thought it was trucking at first, but it's actually True King 357. He says, peace with the big Ashe, disciples plus the pen and pad gang. Peace and love, good brother. And Jim's 9798. I'm ready. Hi, M.O.I. chat, fires and bombs. Nate Fly High. He says, let's get it. Big salute. Archive T. I'm going to be on her podcast sooner than later. She says, peace, y'all.
All right, one more.
And we have, to finish us out, William Carter 2794. He says, yes, sir.
Let's get into it, man. So I want you to kind of set up this video we're about to get into right here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I was saying, the deeper down the rabbit hole we go, the more silent the tea becomes. Um, and the good brother was saying that in schools they lied to us. Well, in the age of information, we can't be vague and general with the pronouns. Who lied to us? Well, most of our books were written by Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend's daddy. His name is Robert Maxwell.
Oh,
Robert Maxwell, the Juicy, was the one who gave you those history books. Uh, and they were the ones who have crafted the stories that we know today. So I've been really going down the rabbit hole, just seeing where they're at. So this is from my fake book page. I'm averaging, I think, you can kind of see the numbers. I can't see; it's too small. But it's a.
it says 948 likes, 90 comments, 512 shares, or forwards, or whatever this is.
Now I do, as you already know, I hold block parties. So it was probably like 120, 150 comments, but somebody say something crazy, you out of here. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm mainly focusing at right now. My content is on Facebook. I'm almost at a quarter of a million followers.
That's dope.
My videos are averaging 50,000, and I'm just going in on where the Juicy has foiled us. And the reality is, he has played a big role in the slavery story. So looking at that, it's going to open the door to say this isn't just all on white people like the Juicy has tried to get us to believe. Without further ado, please, good brother.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
We let in, mind you, immigrants from Africa, Ethiopian Jews who come into this country. I think it's the first time that we have actually transported Black Africans from Africa, not to enslave them, but in fact to liberate them.
This is not the first time you've transported Black Africans from Africa. Let's check the receipts. At the height of U.S. slavery, 78% of slave owners were Juicy. Since only 1.6 of the total population owned slaves, and Juicies made up 3% of the total population, that means that 40% of Juicies own slaves, while only 0.35% of whites own slaves. And never forget, tons of those slave ships were named, owned, and navigated by Juicies. And one more fun fact before I let you go. Did you ninjas know that the slave auction block was closed for Juicy holidays?
But these were Jewish people owning the land. They were the majority. They were the merchants. They were the traders. They knew how to hook up with their brethren in the north. And they would send raw cotton to the mills in England, in Manchester, Leeds, and Bristol, and the British would turn it into cloth and then sell it all over the world. The Rothschilds became rich from cotton. The Lehman Brothers became rich from cotton in Alabama, then moved to New York and Wall Street.
According to this article from the Museum of the Jewish Experience, it reads, an advertisement in North Carolina's Wilmington Journal in 1847 reveals a stain on the local Juicy history. Ansley Davis, who came from Petersburg, Virginia, published an ad under the heading Negroes Wanted. The text stated, I wish to purchase a large number of Negroes of both sexes, from the age of 14 to 30, for which I will pay the highest cash market price. Davis, whose family owned one of the largest Juicy-run slave trading companies in the entire South, would tour the region every summer seeking new slaves, which he later sold. And Davis was not the only Southern Juicy who made a living in the slave trade prior to the Civil War. David Wise of New Orleans also put up slaves for sale at the time, working out of a depot on the city's Baronne Street. Quote, has always on hand a large number of slaves which will be sold for cash, according to an ad that he placed in a paper. A fine lot of young, likely able-bodied Negroes, girls and men, excellent field hands. By the time the war broke out, New Orleans was the largest slave trading city in the South. The stories of Wise and Davis are presented on the website of the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience, which opened in May of 2021 in New Orleans. I'm your brother Crumb. You are now watching CrumbTV. Peace.
Damn.
So that sent me down what we're going to go in today, because we know every single war has been funded by the Juicy, and we know that the Juicy is trying to perpetuate a slave war. I'm sorry, excuse me, a race war. So if the white man wasn't exclusively operating the slave trade and the Juicy was in there, then who else was in there? And that's what today is going to be about. Who were the players in this? Because if you let the school books and the movies tell it, it was just blacks and it was just whites, and we were kind of bickering amongst ourselves. Please, good brother, what do you say?
I agree 100%. I wanted to show the audience. Let's kind of get into, because you said earlier, like let's start naming names and shit. Like let's find out who these people are. One group of people come to mind who were salvaging off of the backs of enslaved people post Civil War were groups of people called carpetbaggers and scallywags, and that's the picture of a carpetbagger right there in that black and white picture with that same look. Remember that look you were showing us with the nose and the face? That
Right.
that that criminal, that crooked look. Well, that's one right there. And I think these people took like full advantage of a lot of people.
Now, I was talking to the minister. I'm talking to the audience at this point. Yeah, family, I was talking to the minister, and him and I were discussing that uh, the the Walmart super center of slavery was Louisiana. Now we know it was the South and some places in the North as well, but it was in Louisiana. Louisiana plays a pivotal role in slavery. And when we go and look at Louisiana, almost half, it started about 20,000 slaves and it got up to almost a half a million, 300,000 or so. And that was almost half of Louisiana's population was slaves. So when we go and look at who were enslaving these people, we're going to find out not only was it the so-called white man, not only was it the Juicy, but black people played a hand in that as well. But as the minister was saying earlier, it's a type of black person, if you will.
Yeah. Apologies. I was on mute. Yeah. To that point. So in Louisiana, particularly, a group of individuals called Creole, and these Creoles were a whole nother society of black people. These Creoles were labeled as free people of color. As I said earlier, um, don't confuse free people of color and the term freedmen, because they're not the same. Freedmen were individuals of the latter 1860s. The freedmen, 40 Acres and the Mule group, part Cherokee, Blackfoot, Squaw, Negro infused population. This is earlier. This is the 1700s. This is the 1600s. This is back when Spain first gave Louisiana over to France before Napoleon under a different treaty. These people were already there, called mulattoes. As you, I think it's on the screen right here. Yeah, it's on the screen. Um, let's just go through it real quick, and we'll start with New Orleans. But y'all know me. I'm gonna take you up through there because we're in New Orleans, so that means everything's on the table at this point. And as I told Crumb earlier, because the brother got me thinking, I did more research. I went way down a rabbit hole. The tea started to disappear for real, and I came across a whole nother list of Black African women who were pivotal. It says in the Atlantic slave trade. In fact, they came over here like on a Tom Joyner cruise during slavery with their slaves to slave colonies as free women of color from Africa. Blowing my fucking mind. Like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not what we were taught. Anybody from Africa that came to the Americas was in shackles and chains and puke and throw up, and they barely survived. And that's not true. It says African American slave owners were African Americans. Let's slow down. Let's begin. Let's just dodge the hijack on the African American crap. All right. Let's just dodge that hijack real quick. We're talking about 1700s. The term didn't even exist. Let's dodge the hijack. So Black slave owners were Blacks who owned slaves during slavery in the United States. You see how it stopped saying African American. Now it says Black. Dodge the hijack. They're changing the names while you're reading the shit and you're not even noticing it. Now, Black slave owners were relatively uncommon, as of most of 2.5 million African Americans living in the United States in 1850. The vast majority were enslaved. There were an estimated 242 Black planters defined as property owners with more than 20 slaves in American South in 1850. Anybody want to add anything to that before I continue?
Well, just I'll throw this out there once again. Like today, when we use these catch-all terms like Black American, it just makes it hard to distinguish who's who, and that's just part of the mind control, as the brother said, going back to McGraw-Hill, um, and those different textbooks that we were, introduced to in the public education system. This is where the brainwashing starting. So, but yeah, we got to clean these terms up, man.
No, for sure. And what I want to do, I want to read through this real quick and then set up Crumb to talk to us about Maria Thresher. Um, that's who initially I think started off talking about. So, but I want to set up set up the backdrop of Louisiana. Then I'm gonna alley hoop over to Brother Crumb and pull up Maria Thresher so he can go in on her. Um, So slave owners include a small number of people of at least partial African ancestry in each original 13 colonies in later states territory that allowed slavery. And in some early cases, Black Americans also had white indentured servants. And in some early cases, Black Americans also had white slaves. Anthony Johnson is one of those situations. And we talked about Anthony Johnson before, who was an Angolan who arrived in America in 1920, not 19, 1621. 1621 he came to America. This is post the 20 or so odd Africans who got brought to Hampton, Virginia, who were also Angolans. So a group of Angolans from Africa came here first, and Anthony Johnson, who was an Angolan, became the patriarch of African landowners in America in the 1620s. African people who were in America who became landowners. He was the patriarch for them. So that's one group of Black people. I'm trying to get you to keep up with me. That's one group of Black Africans in America existed. Sojourner Truth was an African in America. Harriet Tubman was an African in America. African ancestry. They don't even, yeah. Anthony Johnson, African ancestry. Angolan. So the point is, this is the first group of Negroes. When it says the ones who owned white people, that was in the 1700s, 1600s. And in the 1800s, you didn't really see that no more. You didn't really see Blacks owning too many whites at all, if even. Especially in the latter 1840s, you know, just didn't see it. However, in Louisiana, those Creole Negroes did own white indentured servants. Because you have to remember, the territory of Louisiana is under French colonial uh, influence and Spanish colonial influence. We're talking about England influence hasn't hit that area yet. So they're under Code Noir, which is a whole other structure of Negroes in the society of Louisiana that gave rise to the fact that so many Negroes own Negroes in Louisiana because they disassociate themselves as being those kind of niggas. By 1830, there were 3,775 black, including mixed race slaveholders. See how they separated again, including mixed race, which is mulatto, octroon, and quadroon. 3,700 of the motherfuckers are slaveholders in the South who own 12,760 slaves. That's a lot of people. I don't care. This is crazy. The Southern slave population at the time were around 2.3 million. 80% of black slaveholders were located in Louisiana first. That's what Crumb is going to talk about. South Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. The historian James Oakes in 1982 stated that the evidence is overwhelming that the vast majority of black slaveholders were free men who purchased members of their families or who acted out of benevolence. In 1810, Southern states made it increasingly difficult for any slaveholders to free slaves, often purchasing of family members were left no choice but to maintain on paper the owner-slave relationship. In 1850, there were increasing efforts to restrict the rights to hold bondsmen on the grounds that the slave should be kept as far as possible under control of white men only. Bonds. Bid bond. That's what it's called, a bid bond. Paperwork. Freedom papers. Anyway, I yield the floor. I'm gonna pull up Maria Thrasher. I think it's her name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can.
And yeah, Coin is the last name. Coincoin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. There we go. There we go.
So when we talk about these labels, we present slavery as 100% chattel slavery, and that was the original slavery. But that's not true. I did a video years ago saying that white slaves were the first slaves in America,
Mm.
but they weren't called slaves. They were called indentured servants. Now, you have to remember when you go to the 13th Amendment, and people love to cherry pick the 13th Amendment, it said that we were not only going to abolish slavery, but we were going to abolish indentured servitude. So,
Yep.
indentured servitude was the beginning, and chattel slavery came later. So, under indentured servitude, anybody could be an indenture. And it was most likely kids, but anyway. So these indentures, they would work their time, 7, 14 years, whatever the case may be. And after that, they would be set free. And not only would they be set free, they would be given a certain amount of money, they would be given a certain amount of land. And at the time, they called it a long gun. They'd be given a long gun because to be a free person, you had to be a landowner. So now she, just like the whites, because these whites were these Europeans, they would come over, they would do their little time, and after they did their little bid, they get free, and they'd become the citizens or landowners or in some cases slave owners. So Coin, this lady, she starts out as a slave, no problem, but she's actually an indenture. So after she does her little bit of time, she becomes a slave owner. But this whole slave owner thing, because remember, the Juicies own Hollywood. They presented it as, your slave owners are going to be the ones that beat you up and this and this and that and yada, yada, yada. She bought her family. She bought other people. Now she make them work, yeah, but she had every intent to let them go, just like they did her. Everybody did it back in those days. And this whole, there was cruel slave masters and stuff like that. The Juicy painted that picture to try to incite some type of division and a race war, when that just wasn't the case.
Hey, I tell people all the time, I said the lynching came after slavery.
And just real quick, something I want to briefly throw in. I remember doing some research one time. I can't remember the book, but it talked about a gentleman by the name of Judah P. Benjamin. He was described as being swarthy, but just some of his connections, being a Rothschild agent, helping to start the Knights of the Golden Circle, or what we know of as the Ku Klux Klan, and a lot of these domestic terrorist acts. As the brother said, the Juicy being behind the scenes, playing a role as the hidden hand. So yeah, just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we deal with these swarthy people, I think a lot of the family never may have watched Gangs. I'm sorry, not watched Gangs of New York. I mean, not the Warriors, but the real Gangs of New York. The Juicies, the Irish, and the Italians were honorary white people that came later,
Mm-hmm.
way later.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the creation of the YMCA, they weren't considered white. They were considered swarthy. These were your swarthy ones. The Irish were swarthy, the Italians were swarthy, and the Juicies were swarthy. These were your criminals. These were your gangbangers. These were the ones starting mischief in the streets. Our people were hardworking people trying to mind their business and move on. And I think a lot of people, because people, I was talking to a lot of black people. They're like, "Oh yeah, the Juicy is white." Well, he didn't become white till way later, because
Right.
prior to that, prior to the YMCA and gangs in New York, they were, even the Irish are considered a inside out Negro. You can Google
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm not saying Google it, but I'm saying that white is a status that they had to earn years later.
Yeah, that's facts. Here's
Yep.
something that you guys might not didn't know. A, a fun long fact. The Gangs in New York movie. You remember the scene when they got to fighting? Like the, the big fight broke out. Let me pull it real quick. You guys remember seeing this or not? This was the fight scene. You guys remember the scene right here? Y'all got the fighting out there,
Oh yeah.
right? Now, this fight scene is something in history that was called the New York race riot or New York draft riot. The kickoff of this scene of the fight was a flyer of Abraham Lincoln was recruiting all of the young Irish and Italian men in that area to come fight the fucking war. It's real talk. This is the latter 1800s, early 1900s. This is when it's taking place. During this riot, I'm gonna pull up the New York draft riot. It's the gangs of New York. That's that scene in New York. They burnt down. It was called the Howard. It was called the Howard Negro Orphan Asylum. Howard Negro Orphan Asylum. Asylum sounds scary as shit by itself, but the Orphan Negro Asylum was the first Howard University, and they burnt it down in this scene. They overran the police station, and they overran that black school. It was one of the first black race riots in New York, and the scene of gangs in New York was showing you that scene what was happening. It's called the New York Draft Riot. Howard University, yeah, General Howard, who founded the Howard Orphan Institute, I'm sorry, Asylum in New York, where they had They were loaning out black children as indentured servants at this orphanage. And black people were also renting them. You can rent a child to clean up your house. Everybody was doing it. It's crazy. And when they reached the age of 16, they would send the children from the Howard Orphan Asylum, they would send them to the Hampton Indian Institute for further assimilation. Crazy. All from this one scene right here, the gangs in New York. But to your point, they were definitely the hoodlums. They were definitely like just dirty, living in ghettos, by the way. They were living in ghettos, I think, by the way. I yield the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So now these hoodlums who are always up to some type of mischief because they've been kicked out of 109 countries, uh, are the ones who are perpetuating the fake news that we have today about how about how slavery played out. When in fact, you know, they themselves have sold a victim narrative, and that's what got me kicked off YouTube. So I'm not going to go into that. We can't talk about it, uh, and we won't talk about it. But now the story is to where the black person, so-called black people, have adopted that same victim narrative, where oh, we were the slaves. Well, number one, the slave narrative didn't happen the way they told you it happened. Um, and not only do we have Coincoin, who was a so-called slave, she who does become free. Coincoin becomes free. Not only does she become free and she becomes a slave master. Now, if there's a such thing as a good slave master, which I'm not saying it was, but she was a good slave master. She and she, oh, women were oppressed back then. Where? Women weren't oppressed back then. Just like the minister told you, there were a lot of women who were so-called slave masters.
Oh
And
boy, I got a whole list of them too.
that very first slide that you pulled up, there was a bill of lading for a slave, and it was a black woman who the bill was for, who owned a mulatto man. The mulatto man was a slave, and the slave owner was a black woman, so called
Mm,
black, but the mulatto was definitely there.
yeah.
So, oh, we need women's suffrage. No, women already held prominent positions. And Coin. Now, remember, they told you Loving versus Virginia. Oh, we couldn't do no integrating prior to Loving versus Virginia. Coin was married to a white man, or a mixed breed man passing for white. He was swarthy. He was married to she was married. This would have been called amalgamation, mis misingation, or
Miscegenation.
miscegenation. People you couldn't stop us from doing anything we didn't want to do. Not only were did we have prominent roles, not only were our women liberated, but they could marry whoever they wanted to. But they told you, oh no, these things couldn't happen until so and so came along, and a white person had to, or a juicy had to liberate you guys. No, we liberated ourselves. And Maria Coincoin is one of those examples. May I read this little blurb?
Please.
Maria Coincoin, born as Coincoin with no surname, was a planter, is what they would call him, from a plantation, slave owner, and a businesswoman. Oh, I thought they were all subjugated back then. At the colonial Louisiana outpost of Natchitoches, later
Natural.
known. Now, brother, you have some interesting information about the Natchitoches. I can't say it.
Yeah. So the Natchitoches area of Louisiana that they're talking about runs from Monroe, Louisiana, all the way down to Poverty Point. Um, the Natchitoches were part of the Caddo, I'm sorry, Caddo, the Caddo Confederation, and the Caddo Confederation was all of the tribes from the Gulf of Mexico, the basin of Louisiana, and Alabama, all the way up to the Illinois tribe and the Hoka Mountains. And that group up there were called the Oshitush. The Oshitush and the Nashitush were all part of the Caddo Confederation. The French, who settled the area first, didn't call them Oshitush. They called them Washita. And the Washita and the Natchitoches are all part of those dark indigenous tribes of Louisiana. So this is where your Creole are going to start mixing with these white French soldiers, and these Spaniards are going to start to intermix with these beautiful Mocha women in Louisiana. And a lot of them were also descendants of the Taino and the Maroons. Later, the Haitians or the Africans also intermixed in that area. Beautiful people, but a different group of people. And they're going to talk about them right here. It says Louisiana Creole of color. This was this, and this is a real thing. Like just like any other groups, check them out. The Creoles of color are a multiracial ethnic group in Louisiana Creoles that developed from former French, Spanish colonies of Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and Northwest Florida, in what is now the United States as the French colonies in Louisiana. The term was first used Creole to refer to people, and goes on so and so forth. So that's a real thing. The Creole people are a real group of people, right? Now, the free people of color were intermixed with Creole and people from Africa who were never slaves. I'm gonna show you a lot of women, at least about 4 or 5 African women slaveholders who were coming back and forth to America during the time of slavery with their slaves. So this is what you see in the picture right here. And you also see French colonial troops in the background. Those are not British troops. Those brothers back there with the uniforms on. Those are French soldiers. So now you understand the correlation between Louisiana and Haiti, Desmond Tutu, when you see them with their military stuff on, and Livingston Overture, and you start to see Marcus Garvey with his stuff on, and that's the French and Spanish influence on the colonies. So anyway, these women in the picture right here represent that group of free women of color who were slave owners, like Coincoin. She was in that group of individuals, and then married a French Jew. So all of her children were monumented. It said in the beginning, he monumented them or set them free, or basically bond them out of slavery. Because the one thing I want you to remember before I pass the mic is this whole slave narrative is just documentations. They're not physically owning the physical person. Nobody were owning people. I know you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nobody were owning people physically. They were owning them on paper. It was a piece of paper called a bid bond. And if you're indentured servitude, if you're whatever your bond was satisfied or paid, the master was the slave master, the planter would stamp it with a rubber stamp with his seal on it. And anytime you get stopped, where your freedom papers at, and you pull that receipt out and show them your bond is satisfied. So when people were in bondage, these free people of color were never in any type of documentation of bondage when they say bondage. So 3 different groups of people: the Creole groups of people, free people of color, and then the regular Negroes. That's how I can put it. I yield the floor.
Now, speaking about the French, because I know a lot of times we're going to look at that and just say, the European. But I was talking to the minister earlier about the name Leroy. Can somebody in the listening audience help me out? There was a movie about a black dude named Leroy something. I forgot the name of the movie and what his Leroy the Last Dragon or Leroy Wildsmith. It was some movie.
Yeah. Last Dragon was the name of the movie. Yeah.
Last Dragon. And what
Yeah,
was his name? Was Leroy?
Yeah, it was Leroy.
just
But
Leroy.
it was Leroy something. It was a real funny name. But anyway, Leroy, which not in 2025, but Bruce Leroy. That's it. That was, I knew it was a funny name.
Oh,
It was not
it
Bruce
was
Lee. It was Bruce
Leroy.
Leroy.
What the hell?
Right, that's pretty slick. So, with that said, the name Leroy is a very black name. Not anymore. You know, we don't name our kids Leroy, but let's say in the 70s, 80s, and maybe the 90s. So now, when you look at the name Leroy, it's a French name. Lee meaning the, Roy meaning royal. Leroy is actually the royal. And we're not going to see. Shout out to Yashin. Yashin, I tried to call you. I want to come on your platform as well. She says, CrumbTV days, respect the work, the conversation still matters, and it's deeper than most people are ready for. Salute. Big salute to you. Yasini is a master student as well. Actually, she goes by the moniker of being a truther, which I am as well. I'm a truther. So, it doesn't matter what the truth is. If it makes me look good or black people look bad, it doesn't matter. I just want it. We can handle that, I promise you. So, yeah, Leroy is a very so-called black name. People in the ghetto back, my daddy days or whatever, a lot of dudes were named Leroy, which we didn't know was a French name, meaning the royal. Oh, y'all
Leroy.
calling yourself kings and queens. Well, your uncle name was Leroy. So when you call yourself royals,
Fucking hilarious. Hilarious. Um, good brother Blackbeard. You got anything to add before I go on? Because I wanna read. This is actually not a bad wiki article. I read through this way earlier. I read the whole thing earlier, and
Y-
actually went way beyond it. So,
Yeah, go ahead
uh,
and go in. Yeah, it's flowing
okay,
real good. Yeah, keep going.
all right, cool. So, we're still talking about young Coin, and I don't really think that we had a chance to really read who she was or get into who she was for real right here. Coin's family was enslaved by Louisiana French Naturtouche post founder and commandant Cavalier Louis, whatever this nigga name is, D. Dennis. She was born as Coin in 1742. Keep that in mind. 1742. We're talking about Louisiana Territory. 1742. You probably had about, I don't know, 8 colonies on the east coast of America. So at 1742, the British white folks from England ain't got nothing to do with this story. Okay, we're going to be in Louisiana for a little bit. So get the Mayflower out of your head for a second. Okay, we're not talking about the Mayflower. Not not them white people. This is a whole new group of people. This is the French. This is the French, the Spaniards. And when I say Spaniards, I'm not talking about light skinned looking Mexican Spaniards. I'm talking about the darker Moorish Spaniards. I'm talking about the crypt, cryptic Jew Spaniards also at 1742. 1742 in Natchitoches, later known as Natchitoches Parish, her parents, Francisco and Maria Francisco, were she was fourth of 11 children. As children, Coincoin and her sister, Maria Lewis, were trained in pharmacology and nursing. So off the rip, off the rip, she is not like this. Like she is not out picking cotton and
Not at all.
getting beat for not getting soap like they're showing you in the movies. By these skills, the women earned a livelihood after gaining freedom through manumission as adult. Now, manumission was the deliberate liberating or freeing of a slave by their master. You also had what's called meritorious manumission too. Meritorious manumission was a real big one when you had a chance to save something that is, save the fucking plantation or save the day, whatever. You could be meritoriously manumitted also. Abraham Lincoln enacted the Emancipation Compensation Manumission Act in 1863, prior to the Emancipation Proclamation, which he gave incentives for each slave master in D.C. that freed their slave. He would give them $300 each. And a black man by the name of Coakley got awarded $1,600 in reparation of black plantation owner. I'm gonna show you all this stuff, man. Let's keep reading. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited. This is a great subject. Slavery and freedom. When still young, Coincoin had 5 children. Some records show that Coincoin's first 5 children were full African blood off the rip. Let's get it out the way. And others suggest partially Native American, fathered by Chata. About 1765, her mistress granted Coincoin to live with young French merchant Claudius Thomas Pierre Matour. Maturo. Sorry, Coincoin had gained the interest of Mature during his many visits to Saint Denis household. Many visits, they say, a lot of them. He been hitting it. The efforts of the parish priests to break up their union in 1778 by filing charges and threatening her being sold away to New Orleans prompted Mature to buy and monument her. Together, they moved from the post and outlying. Basically, they got ran out. This was the first Lovings versus Virginia threat. Basically, they just moved away. You know about the Lovings versus Virginia case? This is the first one right here, or one of the first ones. Together, they moved from the post outlying lands, and the liaison continued into 1788 as his mixed race children matured and married. Maturo monumented the eldest 5 of the 10 who had held in slavery after he purchased Coincoin and their children. And you may ask yourself, well, if he already married her and his first 5 children, why in the hell is he monument his first 5 children? Because the children are in the condition of the mother, and the mother was a slave. Never mind, she got monumented, she was a slave. And that's called partus seclorum vitrum, from the womb. Or in Louisiana case, it's called code noir. I yield the floor.
And I
Now,
think that goes back to the old Roman law. Excuse me, I want to cut you off, but yeah.
well, initially it started where the children would be of whatever the father was, is what the children were. But that was in Europe. They were sending and making the children work because they were the first slaves, and they would put them down chimneys and things like that. And a lot of children wouldn't make it because a lot of people, this is like this conspiracy theory at this point. A lot of people would tell you they were cloning children, Cabbage Patch Kids, Tartarian orphans, and things of that nature. So then the children, after being held in such grim conditions with the fathers, when it comes over to America, they changed it to where the children would be what the mother is. But I did want to mention this real quick. We are flirting with the hour mark. I wanted to see if I could slip in a quick commercial break, if that was okay.
Absolutely, bro. Let's do it. Give me 1 second. Let's do it.
So, with that said, I'm going to be hosting a event called Conscious Kickball. We've done the lectures. We love those. We've done the things where we sit down and eat, and we love those even more. But this time we're going to go out here and we're going to get active, family. We're going to pull up and we're going to get active, but it's not like the YNs, so to speak. So, I want to ask the family who is in the area or who can travel, because some of y'all are kind of stuck on a plantation, and I get it. I've been there as well. But if you can, tap all the way in. Remember, Atlanta's area code is 404. So it's going to be on 404 day, April 4th. We're going to play kickball. It's going to be me and my team versus Paul Meadow from Too Raw for TV and his team. It's going to be hosted by my big brother, Ugly Money Nietzsche. I would call him the hood Kevin Samuels, the young Kevin Samuels. I don't know how you want to describe him, but he's doing big things as well. Anyway, you can scan this QR code in the top right-hand corner if you want to join us, family. I think it was only 11 people to a team. Me personally, I think I already got like 9 people. Maybe I got 7. So if you want to tap in and be on my team, you probably want to move quickly. But you can also just be in the audience and kind of cheer us on. Now, I've said a lot of things that people don't agree with, and I've upset a lot of people throughout the years. So if you want to be on Paul Meadows' team and shut me down or try to shut me down, because it's not going down, family, I'm going to win this game. But if you want to try to shut me down, you can be on his team as well. That's all I got for you. Shout out to the family.
Y'all heard it, man. Tap all the way in. For sure. Okay. So did you want to continue with Miss Thresher, because now we own her son, Nicholas Augustus Mature. Matura. Am I saying that right? Meta.
You're close enough to
Matura.
me. Matoya?
Matoya. Yeah.
Matoya.
Yeah.
So you want to continue read through this right here, because I mean it's some really good nuggets in this whole blurb, bro. I'm telling you that'll surprise you.
Okay. You can scroll up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Coincoin lived frugally and served others, investing all her income into the purchase of freedom of the children from the slave marriage of her youth. By the time of her death, she had manumitted 3 of those children and 3 grandchildren. Another daughter and many grandchildren remained enslaved, as their owners refused to manumit or sell them.
Damn. Now, I want to add something real quick to what you just read, right? It said, by the time of her death, she had manumitted 3 of those children and 3 grandchildren. Another daughter and many grandchildren remained enslaved, as their owners refused to manumit them or sell them. Their owners, and their owners were their family members.
Right.
Not white people. This was an intergenerational Black-owned slave plantation. This shit went on for I think 4 or 5 generations, it said. The shit started in the 1700s. We just read the shit. Excuse my language. We just read it. This is earlier on. This started. It didn't start in 18 picking cotton, nothing. There's sugarcane plantations in Louisiana. Sugarcane plantations. So that's to be said real quick about Harriet Tubman. Her situation was she was freeing only her family members from Maryland and taking them up north to Canada. In some cases, just over to Philly. Same thing with the brother I mentioned earlier, Coakley, Gabriel Coakley, who received $1,000 in reparations for his slaves, who were mostly his family members. Did they work? Hell yeah, they work. I yield the floor.
So Coincoin died in 1816, and her grave is no longer marked. Her oldest son, Augustine, donated land for a church at Isle Brevelly, Natchez, Louisiana. In 1829, he commissioned his brother Louis to build the structure, St. Augustine Parish Church. It is believed to be America's first church built by free people of color for their own use.
That is a statement to what they're saying. It's not saying that Black people were not going to church. This is their group of Negroes. And you see, it's in Natchez, Louisiana. Those are the Natchez Indians, the Washita Indians. This is their territory. Think back, if you can. This is the area that DeSoto went through. DeSoto went through Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana on his exploration. I think he died somewhere in Louisiana. And his his Moorish Black Negro, Escovitz, was his guide. Escovitz kept going all the way to Texas and Mexico because Escovitz could speak Hebrew, they said. The Indian tribe spoke Hebrew. I can pull up the damn clip. I can pull up the notes. And so the Natchez territory, Louisiana, Poverty Point, the Washita Indians. I'm trying to get you guys in the mental space of understanding where we are in the world, what part of the world we in, and what time we in right now. So these mulatto, light skinned children being born, the same thing is happening in the mid 1800s in Washington D.C. That's why you're going to get Howard University. This ain't the first time that darker kids and the lighter kids have been in the same school. The first it happened in the Hampton Indian Institute, and then other HBCUs start to sprout up. But for whatever reason, Howard University, those light skinned mulatto kids did not want to be in the same institution with darker kids, and their fathers were the white politicians. Anyway, let's keep
Now, to
going.
add a little context to this piece where they built this church, it's important to note that 30 to 50% of all slaves who were transported from Africa were Muslim. A lot of people will say, oh, Cromwell, before the African slave trade, it was the Islamic slave trade. Yeah. And with that said, that slave trade by extension of the juicy, because you don't get this until the Spanish Inquisition. After the Spanish Inquisition, they tell the Juicies and they tell the Mohammedans or the Muslims of that particular time, you have two options. You can stay and convert to Christianity, or we're going to kick you out, and you have to leave as an infidel, as a not as an infidel, but as a heathen, excuse me, as a heathen. So now, what a lot of people, black people, in essence, don't know, a lot of these so-called slaves that did come from Africa, of that particular group, those were non-Christians,
Correct.
and and uh, a lot of those foreigners were. Considered to be heathens, savages, barbarians, because this was a Christian country. So now these group of black people, they're they're integrated, so to speak. Not only do they speak the King's English, but they also understand. Because back then, the first book that was mass produced was the Bible. When you want to learn how to read, we're going to read this book first, and then eventually, you can start reading other books, maybe even write a few here and there. But ultimately, building that church was a part of their implemented freedom. And later on, they said even Christians would be enslaved. But ultimately, uh, it wasn't a race situation. Oh, blacks against whites, this and this and that. It was religion, to where if you weren't a Christian, and I think the minister has spoken about this several times, if you're not a Christian, the Pope said the Christians can go out there and enslave non-Christians. Minister, do you remember when you spoke on that?
About enslaving non-Christians.
The Pope put out an edict that they could enslave non-Christians.
Oh yeah, that was the um Papa Bull put out in 1492, the Intercaterra Cavina. Um, Pope Nicholas, I think, put that out. Prior to that, it was called the Pontifex, and the Pontifex set up the Magna Carta, and the Magna Carta kicked off that right there. Basically, anybody west of the Canary Islands that would not convert to Christianity, then you could enslave them or kill them because they're infidels, basically. In,
Bingo.
in fact, what's the picture? Okay, Spanish conquistadors.
And before you go into what you're going into,
Mhm.
that's what also started that whole crypto juicy thing, because as the brother said, they were either going to convert into Catholicism or, or get out of there. So a lot of them, they would fake like they would become, these various forms, when especially the Protestant movement. But really they still were practicing their true religion in closed doors. But yeah, I just want to throw that in there.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I want to show you a group that later that later became known as the crypto Jews in New York. The picture of them just remind me. All right,
Hmm.
so right here, let me zoom in. You see conquistadors, but you also see those Moors in the back with the turban on.
Yep.
You see it?
Yes, sir.
Now, the reason you see them is because they were kicked out. They
That's
couldn't stay. Nobody wants you here. They they were kicked out of Spain because they did not want to convert.
oh yeah. I'm not I'm not at all disagreeing. I'm just showing people that the conquistador, he's with them. He's with them because they can't speak that language. With the joint on the white horse, he can't speak their language. I'm gonna show you who he Escovitch, a Moor, and then I'm gonna show you the Nino brothers, who were the three Moor Columbus over here. They were directly involved, and you're right. They were converts called Moriscos. When the
Yep.
Moor had converted to Christianity, they called them Moriscos, and they began to help the Spanish Inquisition going into the Americas as conquistadors. I can show you Moorish black conquistadors who came into the area under the auspice of Christianity, and then you had the other Juicies who got kicked out of Spain. They came to the colonies of America, and those crypto Juicies, a lot of them went to New York, and those crypto Juicies who were not how we thinking, how they look now. These were the darker hue Hebrews Juicies who
Right.
came out of Spain, and they end up opening up a lodge or a following in the early part of the 1900s, 1920s, called the Old Canaanite Temple.
And remember the image you showed us earlier, the mulatto gentleman. I can't remember his name, but
Hmm.
the brother Crump pointed out his last name and how you could see Iberian or Iber or Hebrew or
Oh
Eber in his
yeah.
last name, and it's showing you going back to these Sephardic Jews. Like for example, when the Delta Force rather went into Venezuela and got Maduro, there were articles put out several years ago by the Times of Israel, but it just talked about how Maduro had Sephardic, Jewish, Moorish ancestry. So even though he looks, I guess like today what we may think of as a Spanish person, but when they
Uh,
say Sephardic Jew or Iberian Moorish ancestry, they talking about those original melanated ones that were in the Iberian Peninsula prior to them being kicked out from the Inquisition, etc.
no, I totally agree. I just wanted to show people like
Yep, that's
these
them, the Moorish Zionist temple.
these are the descendants of those we're talking about that got kicked out of Spain. They got the the Anglican Church. The Anglican Church had came into reclination because Martin Luther just divided the Eastern Orthodox Church, which is the original Catholic Church, and now the Anglican Church of Europe. All the Protestants have left Europe under the protest movement. The Puritans left earlier in 1600s on the pilgrimage coming to America because they changed the Geneva Bible to the King James Bible. So now the influx of the idea of Christianity has to spread. And that's when you get the Crusades. That's all part of the spread of Christianity. In hoc signo vince. In this sign we should conquer. The cross through the crown. They're now spreading a whole new thing. So kicking them Jews out and the more it is the same people. They're the same people. I don't
Right.
mix between like same people.
What Blackbeard was talking about was a place called Iberville Parish. I'm sorry, Iberville Parish. Can you pull that up real quick? Iberville Parish? Iber, Iberville. There, damn, we got a jail too. So Iberville Parish was where some of or a lot of these prominent black so-called black slave masters were from.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe the name. I just couldn't
Right.
believe it because what the family may or may not know is Iberville, and even that dude looks swarthy
Yeah, he does. He does.
because
With
you
the
know they got to
red hair.
whitewash. You know they got to whitewash it, and they were wearing makeup back then.
Yep.
With their red hair.
Right, right. So now, Iberville, the root word, well, Ville meaning standing for village, but Eber standing for Iber or Iberia, which is modern day Spain, which we've been talking about this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And Iberia, the root of that, the etymon, is Eber. Eber was the grandson of Noah, and Eber is considered the very first Hebrew.
Right.
And we know Hebrew means simply to cross over. So these,
I don't buy that.
please elaborate.
Not just what you said, but I don't I don't agree with the usage of the term Hebrew as a group of people and then the double entendre of calling them Hebrew Israelites. Like, okay, it's the same thing. Like, stop saying the same thing over and over. It's like, but to call a group of people Hebrews, when did they become Hebrews? Is the question, because they walked
Well,
out of, hold on, they walked out of Egypt Egyptian. They've been there for 400 years. How many generations? 400 years. So whatever that last generation was, they had no clue of what this dude was talking about as far as crossing over a river to be called no other name at all. These were Egyptians who were leaving out of Egypt.
well, can you look up Eber, Eber, grandson of Noah?
Let's do it.
Cause that's where I thought it came from.
That's what I thought it came from as
Uh,
well.
Eber, grandson of Noah. All right.
You got a T in there.
Oh yeah. All right. So Eber was a great grandson of Noah. Noah's son Shem. So he was the son. This is Shem's son, and the
So
father of Peleg, born when Eber was 34 years old, of Joktan. He was the son of Shelah, a distant ancestor of Abraham. According to the Hebrew Bible, Eber died at the age of 464.
Cause
uh,
remember, like when these people say Hebrew Israelites, I do agree with you. It sounds confusing, but it's really probably Shemitic Israelites because there are a lot of Shemitic nations. Like Shem had a lot of sons, Ham
correct.
had a lot of sons, Yafet had a lot of sons. So Shemitic Israelites, like that term Ebra, that's what I thought they were getting that from.
But
Like they say
here's
that
my question: how can you get Israelite from Shem? Shem, Ham, and Jephthah are the new creation for the whole new world. Like there is no, what bloodline did even start with to even get to them him being an Israelite? Like
I
or
think the
Hebrew
Jacob,
Israelites, yeah, yeah,
to who?
Jacob, Yakub.
yeah.
But if you could look up, is Eber the first Hebrew?
Is Eber the first Hebrew? It said Hebrew. Biblical context: Eber is a notable character mentioned in the book of Genesis as a descendant of Shem, the son of Noah. He is often recognized as the ancestor of the Hebrew people, and his lineage reflects a broader narrative of Hebrew scripture.
He's the progenitor.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And see, that's the
hold on. Medieval scholars as Michael the Syrian Bar Hubris and Appius of Heliopolis noted the prevailing view was Hebrews. It gives you the Hebrew, the Romanized, all derived from the letters BR, had received their name from Eber, while
Yep.
others state that Hebrew means those who cross over.
See, I think that latter one may have come secondary, but
Yeah, it did.
yeah, because even when because I mean, wasn't it allegedly Abraham who crossed over into Canaan?
No,
So what is the
no.
so the crossing over? Where does that come from then?
Moses crossing them over. They came out of Egypt into the Mesopotamia. That was the Red Sea. They crossed over Moses. So I'm like, what? Why are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? That these individuals we're talking about, the Hebrews. This is the group that Moses ushered out of Egypt around that mountain, ordering the Levites to kill off the people and drink the blood, drink the gold of the bull calf that Aaron just made, and that's why Moses couldn't get there. And then it kicks off and going into the promised land. These are the Hebrews. Remember, the ones who got
Well,
supposedly got
I,
beat and built the pyramids. They got
no,
ran out
no,
of Egypt.
no, those were Israelites because they
Yeah, those
came
are
in. They came in because Judah, bitch ass, sold his brother. And oh, black people are Jews. Well, you must be Jews because you love selling your brothers into slavery, right? So
right.
Judah, bitch ass, sold his brother Joshua into slavery, and then Joshua on the
Joseph,
fuck
Joseph, Joseph.
Joseph, keep me honest, thank you.
Hmm.
Joseph or Yusuf is a dream reader, so he becomes the visor, the chief visor to the king, and then his brothers, the old banana in the tailpipe, right? You
Hold on.
the
You said King Pharaoh. Wait a minute.
visor,
He became vice to Pharaoh. You said king.
tomato, tomato,
Okay.
whatever.
I want the audience to know that we're still in Egypt. Keep
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. He becomes vizier or vizier to the pharaoh, the king, the sultan, whatever you want to call him, because
Hmm.
pharaoh is a relatively new word. But anyway, he becomes sultan. I'm sorry, excuse me. He becomes vizier, and then his brothers, for the same trap they set for him, they fall into that trap themselves, and they become in bondage, and he has to free them. Now, after he frees, I'm sorry, after they become in bondage, that's how they got into Egypt in the first place and became the Israelites. These were all the sons of Jacob, all the sons of Yaqub, and then they became many.
Because yeah, because it was his allegedly a famine, I believe, that brought them back, and they didn't realize that Joseph's station had risen in Egypt. Those men stayed. They had to amalgamate with the different women in Egypt. So, various Hamitic and Shemitic women probably living in Egypt. And then Moses, who allegedly thought he was Egyptian Hamitic, but found out he was an Israelite. Now he leads the people out. And it does says that it was the Israelites and a mixed multitude led by Moses that went into the promise or went into the desert. So this mixed multitude more than likely were other nations that were living in Egypt, and they left out with these Israelites. But I do agree though, like they were living in Egypt. Like there was no Israelite
Okay,
culture or anything at
hold
that
on,
time.
hold
Yeah,
on. Now we'll make this point. We can move on. Hebrew Israelites. Can a Israelite be a Hebrew? Yes or no? I'm asking. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
can
Israelite can be a Hebrew.
can a can a Hebrew be an Israelite?
No,
So Hebrews can't be Israelites.
Hebrews cannot be Israelites.
Can an Egyptian be an Israelite?
I mean, Manasseh and
Ephraim.
uh Ephraim, what's his name? Ephraim, Manasseh,
Ephraim.
and
Yeah.
yeah, they were part Israelite and Egyptian.
Okay.
Even Ishmael, I think Hagar was his mother, and she was Egyptian, and his father Abraham would have been, I guess, Semitic. So yeah.
Yeah,
So now the story goes it was a group of people in bondage in Egypt, slaves. who supposedly did some work, and then they were so oppressed, and then somebody got talked to by a voice in the sky and said, "Let my people go." And then all the old people stayed in Egypt. They didn't go anywhere. The younger people left with him. The old people stayed. Like, well, we got it good here. Fuck that. Go where? With who? Are you crazy? This is a crazy man walking around saying, "Hey, follow me." Like, what? No. We've been here 400 years. My kids got school tomorrow. Sit down somewhere. So anyway, we have a slave class of people in Egypt. We all can agree to that. Let's examine a group called Haparu or Habaru. I put this out years ago. It's archaic. It's in the Fertile Crescent. It's the social status of people who variously described as rebels, outlaws, raiders, mercenaries, bowmen, servants, slaves, and laborers. That describes the Hebrews. Due to linguistic similarity between the term Aparu and Hebrew, early scholars equate them with the Israelites. I'm confused,
Well,
y'all.
I will agree with you,
Talk to me.
because yeah, I will agree because let's think about it. The Canaanites were a civilization that was already developed. They were getting money, etc. Joshua, Caleb, and those Israelites that were in the wilderness coming to sack Canaan, they would have been perceived as raiders, robbers, bandits, and criminals. People coming from Egypt who had nowhere really to go, and they were trying to establish something for themselves. So yes, that latter part of that definition, it most certainly describes the behavior of those Israelite people when they went into Canaan, because it said that they slew all the people. So yeah, I do agree with you on that. Yeah, most certainly, most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah, yeah, they were usurpers, they were colonizers, you know, and this is what I tell people. Oh, that's the promised land. Fine, it's the promised land, but just know God took it from somebody else and gave it to you later.
Right,
Promise my ass.
right, right.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah,
So to your point, real quick, Bo, the Hyksos is who you're referring to, um, about the Canaanite connection. The Hyksos rule might have been preceded by the group of Canaanites. These are the same individuals. West Semantic under the divine law of Levi, Levitical order. These individuals called the Hyksos will be that group. I yield the floor. All right, let's go back to America because we all over here in
Well,
we all over here
but
in
no, I think that's important though to understand the juicy, because see, remember the pale juicy is who we see today, but the dark skinned one from the past, that's the origin. So what we just explored was more of, we'll say, some of the ancient origin of the darker juicy and how it leads up to the lighter. So it all still connects.
oh for sure.
Hmm.
I agree 100%.
yeah, because
Um, go ahead.
the minister had pointed out that Coin had built that church. And you know, she had to build that church because that was a part of their conditions of freedom. You had to be Christianized. And we know that there was a lot of these so-called slaves who were not Christians. 30 to 50% of all the slaves, of the ones that came from Africa, because the minister has pointed out, we have to deal with the antebellum aspect, to where they just took them from up north and brought them down south. But of the
Oh
few,
yes.
yes, absolutely. But of the few that did come from Africa, those were Muslims who were already a part of a different network that was the Islamic slave trade. And I very rarely, if ever, hear anybody over here talk about how a part of being free was to be Christian.
No, in the colonial territory, because the colonies were set up by Christians. I mentioned that earlier. The pilgrimage, not pilgrims, the pilgrimage, which is a holy journey,
Teach.
were Puritans, Quakers, Calvinists, and Brownists. which is called the First Great Awakening.
Yep.
And then to the south region, the middle Central America and South America with the Portuguese and the Spaniards, they were bringing in Spanish missionaries called friars. And those friars will go around propagating the faith in those colonies. So to today, you see most of the South American countries are 80%, 70% Catholic. And America, North America, is 80% Christian because the Christians came here, and the Anglicans came way later in the Second Great Awakening.
And like you
That
said, Protestant Christians.
right, right.
And maybe I assume everybody caught it, but if they didn't catch it, the minister said earlier, "In hoc signo vinces." You might want to Google that on your free time. In thi-
Mm,
in this sign we shall conquer.
Mm,
This was a movement of
hmm.
Christians.
mm.
So when Coin built that church, it wasn't even like an option. That wasn't that was a sign. Hey guys, we come in peace. We're good Christians. Blah blah blah. There we go. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's deep right there, man.
Now, Masons getting excited. This is known as one of the degrees, Knight Templars, or KT, they call it in Freemasonry. That cross with that light in the background is the image that Constantine saw on the battlefield that convinced him to give up his donation to a African bishop by the name of Sylvester I at the Council of Ferrara, and he became a Christian. Constantine did. So that's that cross and that light in the background. Now that crown is for the throne, not a king, but the royal throne. The Papist, the Pope, the Vicar, and the two swords in the back represents, one is Knights of Malta and one is Knight Templars. And that's why the picture to your left, right there, it got the skull and crossbone. That's the skull of John the Baptist. He was beheaded. John the Baptist and John the Evangelist. You see pirateers with that skull and crossbone.
And I don't want to, make this an echo chamber, but to the listening audience, once again, there was the word was put out by the leadership. If you're not Christian, we can enslave you.
Mm,
So these people had to put that, it was a gesture of freedom. And even what Blackbeard said, and this is very important, family. A lot of these people, with all due respect, and even today, I remember my cousins, they would go to church, and then soon as church is over, they start playing Luke. Luke was big back then, and Luke was nasty. We were just Christians because we had to pass. We passing as black. Well, to pass as free, you had to. I'm doing an air quote thing with my fingers. Be a Christian. A lot of y'all not even really Christians. Like, for y'all don't read that Bible. You're not really. You kind of just you going with the motions of being a Christian. And I'm not saying nothing's wrong with that, because of a lot of us had to do that. We were just going through the motions of being Christians, even though we're not necessarily buying into the doctrine. We'll say we're Christians, but we don't necessarily practice. I guarantee you there's a ton of people in the audience that will tell you they're Christians and don't read that Bible.
And see, a lot of that goes back to the whole crypto juicy thing, because remember, you were going to be put to death if you didn't convert. So a lot of people, they wanted to keep their lives. So they would profess to the, some form of Christianity publicly, but behind closed doors, they still had their private religions. So, a lot of and that spilled into the Protestants. So like a lot of these Protestants that came over, they wanted to practice religious freedom, but it just opened up to doors to a lot of stuff. So yeah, you're right about that, man, about putting on, the costume of the Christian, but a lot of that was for political reasons, surviving, not wanting to be outcasted. Because even think today, like somebody may think you don't believe in so-called Jesus Christ, and they may not even want to hang with you no more. So, people tend to have a,
which is
you know,
unchristlike.
yeah, a follow. It was like a follower mentality, and some people were. But see, these juicy, they were cutthroat. Like they would act like they may have been, but behind closed doors, they're still worshiping and playing with Baal and Moloch and all that other stuff. So, yeah, you speaking facts, man.
Speaking of Bell, this is the name, yeah. Vladimir Putin reveals a picture of Bao. Hold on.
I think over in Iran, even they got some riots over there where they burning Baal statues and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it? Where's? Damn, I seen it. Was it Vladimir Putin? Oh no. Okay, Vladimir Putin was saying no more satanic worship, and Iran had the picture of Baal with America. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. I'll say, oh man, what the hell? These white people, they really believe this shit. Yeah. Putin attacks West as satanic hell Russia, man, and this is in lieu of Iran having a big ass picture of Bell and America's like a puppet behind it. It has like Epstein and Trump. I was like, oh god,
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, yeah,
oh god. You
yeah,
seen this shit?
yeah. But they actually got like a actual Baal statue though that I saw that they're lighting on fire, people throwing trash at it. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, they turning up over there in Iran.
they said, I don't know if this is 1,000,000% true, but it was reported that Netanyahu saw that and said that was, even though it was just the people, it wasn't like the government, but
Right.
Netanyahu said that was an act uh to decree war on Israel. And I just found it really funny that he would say something like that, because they really hold, just as Blackbeard was saying, they'll cosplay as Juicies, but they're really followers of Moloch, Baal, and Rimfan.
Right.
Mm,
Because look at the star on their flag. So it would make sense that if you're going to declare conflict with those people and attack their symbol, that star on their flag is the star of Remphan, aka Moloch and Baal. So they're burning his statue. That's like burning somebody's flag. So it's quite accurate what
Ooh.
Iran is doing. Actually, they're making the public declaration
why would they pick Baal, y'all?
because that's the true God
Of of what?
of 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 the crypto juicy. That's one of them at least. You know.
That's crazy.
I mean, these people went because see that's another thing. See, they're over there in the Far East. Like we know that a lot of the stuff is, you know, that they tell us is in the Middle East is also in America, but they're not burning that statue for no reason. They're not crazy. They didn't get the wrong god. They didn't get no. They know what they're burning. They burning what they know them people really are dealing with.
Jeez,
Yeah,
man,
I was shocked when I saw that.
that is insane, bro. All right, let's switch gears back over here.
And also, I
Um,
want to add this too, real quick. The Israelite people, they were told before you go into the Holy Land or Canaan to not practice and worship the idols that you're going to see the people in Canaan doing. And Baal was one of those idols that they were introduced to, and they had a problem with that all throughout biblical history, of dealing with that false idol. So
no, that's true. I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
Hosea talk about that too.
No.
Um, let's dove into a couple more points real quick before we wrap it up. Signor, a signer. Am I saying that correctly? This term right
Sitting
here,
there.
Signaire.
signer. Negresses is what they call them in the French colony. We're in Louisiana still. I haven't went nowhere. Still in Louisiana. Negresses of a quality from the island of St. Louis in Senegal. A compass, Senegal, Africa. St. Louis. Yeah. St. Louis, come over here. I'll connect the dots in a second. St. Louis, Senegal, accompanied by her slave, illustrated in costume. So this is the slaver, this African black woman right here, and this is her slave right here. So child, like he being bad or something right here.
Mm.
And this is the entire society of those individuals. They have a whole ball with European men, they say, to have
Like the
other
yeah,
to
like
have.
the yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, no, no. I was gonna just say like you ever heard of, I think like the octoroon ball? I think that's a term whenever you get a chance Google it, octoroon ball, but you're right, like those mulatto women. You kind of going into it right now. I ain't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you fine, bro.
Yeah.
Signera were black and mulatto. It's two, and means another one. It means it's two separate. So it can be either or. It can be dark skin or fair skin. Signoras were black and mulatto Senegalese women who had influence via their marriage with European men and a patrimony. These women of color managed to gain some individual assets, statues, and power and hierarchy in the Atlantic slave trade. Here we go. Shit got real quick, didn't it? She wasn't
Mm.
she wasn't so cute no more, right?
Mm.
Let's find out. And this is not even in compel. This is about to this shit compels. Is it compel? I'm trying to say. Yeah. No, there's no comparison. It doesn't compare to Queen Nzinga, who's another African. Now I'm gonna show you the Africans who were involved in bringing your ancestors, as you call them, over here. It was black on black the whole time. The the merchants, the insurers, and the corporations were all ran by juicies and colonial hedge funds. That's it. I don't have time tonight, but I can show you the founding charter for the Virginia Company, the Philadelphia Company, the East Indian Company, the Dutch Trading Company, and there's one called the African something. That's the one King James had founded, but Charles took it over and ran it. And the good ship Jesus comes out of that same stock of ships, and that's the one that what's his name, John Hawkins, got contracted by Queen Elizabeth to go do that shit. So we can get into all that later. There was a Portuguese equivalent referred to as a Nehar, a name for a Luso African businesswomen who played an important part. Here we go. Watch this. As business agents through their connections with both Portuguese and African population, there were also an English language equivalent of women of mixed African and British or American descent with the same position, such as Betsy Heard, a Euro African slave trader, Mary Faber, a dominant figure, 1830 to 1852. This wasn't no 1700s. This is nigga cotton picking time. 1830 to 1852. As a matter of fact, point of order, 1830s, anybody that she was enslaving was not coming from Africa. That was outlawed in 1808. So 1830 to 1852, she was a dominant figure for the Atlantic slave trade of Guinea and known for her conflict with the British Royal Navy anti-slavery squadron. Elizabeth Frenzer Skeleton, also called Mummy Skeleton, was a Euro-African slave trader. How many I gave you so far? One,
Mm.
three, and
Wow.
we ain't got to the main character yet. Come on, talk black to me. Senors commonly had power and network. That's why I keep trying to. These are different groups of black people in America, divided. Y'all thinking they all together? No, they not. They don't care nothing about no black niggas. Just like right now in Atlanta, people who live up in Marietta and Kennesaw and Roswell in the big nice houses, they don't care about nobody in board homes, Bankhead Court, these little projects.
Facts.
No, what? Lock them up. They don't pay taxes no way. What you talking about? They're not tax paying members of society. Who cares about them motherfuckers? But later you're going to see people like Hiram Revels, um, William T. Montgomery, the founder of Mound Bayou, who ends up Mississippi congressman, who sets up legislation for anti-literacy laws at the polls for keeping poor blacks and poor whites from voting. This is a black man, 1873. I'm gonna show you all the black on black crime. So next time you watch Django and you see Samuel L. Jackson, when I tell you he was the owner of Candyland, it's gonna make sense to you. He was the owner of Candyland.
No, you actually right. And just real quick, like even just look at the cinematography, the way that the scene was directed. Like when Jamie Foxx and them were on the horses and they were approaching in slow motion, the camera it zooms in on Samuel is the first one you see representing the plantation, and the plantation's in the background, and as they get closer, Samuel's face, his scowl becomes more and more satanic as they get close. So you're right, like Samuel Jackson, he's that descendant of this, we'll say that swarthy evil nobility of Europa that was on the BS over here.
I agree. Maria Badu, if I'm saying that right, was a free African woman who traveled from Senegal, Bamba to Louisiana in the 18th century. That means during the height of slavery, this lady was traveling from Africa over to the American colonies to Louisiana to see her man, and she had three slaves to come with her. These are black people, women. Sorry, black women.
Mm, mm.
Now, I showed you four, I think five. I got a couple more to show you. And I want you to write this stuff down. Take notes. Brother Crom already gave you Thresher. Born free during the era of slave trade, Maria Badu traveled from St. Louis, Senegal to New Orleans as a free African woman in the 1700s. Can we roll the tape of this African diaspora? I thought y'all was getting thrown off ships and just, oh God. Well, uh, what? In the era with the majority of Africans crossing the Atlantic traveling as captives, Badu traveled as a passenger with her enslaved property. Do y'all see that? Badu traveled as a passenger with enslaved property of her own. She was part of the tiny cohort of free African women who crossed the Atlantic at the time. Women like women like the Senegal Bamba merchant Anna Rosa, whatever her name is, Gambia trader. These are more people. They're naming right here. Anna Rosengal. That's another woman. Gambian, the Gambian trader. Penda Lawrence, the wealthy Sierra Leone. Elizabeth Cleaver. These are all African black women who was trading slaves.
Mm.
Don't just give me no black slave plantation owner in America. I want the source who was supplying them. We're gonna do an FBI. Nah, fuck that. CIA. Give me the source. I don't want the little fish. I don't want the Anthony Johnsons. I know where he come from. Let's talk about these black women in not so black history.
Wow.
Brother Crumb, you got anything to add to this?
Yeah, well, this is almost an extension of because Blackbeard. I'm gonna tell you, at one point in time, it was probably when that movie came out. MOI would not get off Queen Zinga's neck.
Mm.
He would not. And he just kept going on how, she's pushing the whole slave narrative, her teaming up with these Portuguese. And, at the time when that movie came out, black people were singing her praise. And MOY was, it was all of America against him. Because he was probably the only person in the world, because we were all into that movie at that time.
Fuck Queen
Um,
Latifah.
no, the movie was called, what was that? Blackbeard, do you remember that movie
Yeah, it was that.
about
It was about that dark skin. She, the African warrior. Is that movie?
the female queen or the king queen
Yeah,
or
the Woman King or something
The
like that.
Woman King? It was
Yeah,
that movie. And
yeah,
black people were just we were enamored. And
right.
then here comes MOY.
Mm.
Man, because it's like black people love a romance story. We like to romance everything. Yeah, we was enslaved and then, but see, the the psychoneurosis of American black people is the part that keeps me kind of like giggling inside because in a black Christian mind, they automatically think that they got something to do with the 400 years of slavery in Egypt by default. That's psychoneurosis. They accept the xenophilia of other people's beliefs, so they already think they got something to do with that 400-year situation in Egypt, and then you tell them they were enslaved in America for 400 years. America is only 276 years old. What the hell are y'all talking about? 400 years.
We do have to admit this though, that because when you starting to get deeper into this enlightenment and you find out these truths, because on one end it would make it seem like, well, black Americans just must be stupid. They didn't do their own homework, they didn't investigate, they just believe what somebody told them. And maybe to a certain degree that may be true. Like how we have access to this internet now and these resources, as the brother Crumb said, like today there's no excuse. But we got to admit though, these last couple of decades, um our people, man, we have been like deliberately put under this spell. Because as he said, I was looking into some of the stuff and find out that the Maxwell's father connected to McGraw Hill. And then, a lot of times I watch PBS or Georgia Public Broadcasting, and at the end of these different educational programs, they'll have like, Rockefeller Foundation funded, or something like that. So there's a certain percentage of, compassion that I'll have with our people, because it's like, yeah, on one end you got some of us that are lazy and maybe just dumb and don't want to do the homework, but then on the other end, a lot of us were just lied to. It was very well put together, and they hit us with it. Because I'll admit, when I was a child and a teenager, like I didn't know a lot of this. Like these people told us that we were from Africa. So we had to do the homework to figure out if that was true or not. But they did bring the deception to us, and they did a good job at reinforcing it. So, but yeah, it's some wicked stuff, man. It is wicked.
And brother, Crom can tell you. I've been doing this for a long time, not forever, but for a long time. Um, I'm to the point. I don't want to hear no excuses for our people anymore, bro. I mean, like, there's no reason now in 2026, 2020 anything, 2020 any 2000 anything, that our people should not even uh, want to go investigate a little bit more beyond. And we all agree how we were treated by white people or by European people. We all can agree some egregious, obnoxious way we were treated differently from the rest of society. We all can agree to that. So if they didn't treat you right, they're probably not going to teach you right.
Facts.
And we're the only group of people that force our children to go be educated by our oppressors. The Asian population here in Gwinnett County don't. They got their own little charter schools. Their kids go to their little charter schools. They got their own little shopping centers. They're in the world, but not of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they're prosperous. So I like to deal with numbers and results, and I'm gonna yield the floor. I want to show you guys about Queen and Zinga, and we're still talking about these African women. I don't gave you about 6 of them. I think we're on 7 with Queen and Zinga at this point. I'm trying to get you 10 black women of African origin. You can go look up who were heavy in the slave trade game. They were the Madam C.J. Walkers of slave trade.
Mm.
Okay, they were the Oprahs of slave trade. All right,
Damn, Gina.
come on, you get a nigga, you get a nigga, you get a nigga. Everybody get a nigga. Queen Nzinga. How many slaves did Queen Nzinga sell? We're going to go into numbers, family, real quick. If you guys don't mind, I just want to have the floor for like 2 minutes. I'm going to get this off.
Oh yeah.
I want everybody to get your pen and your paper and take these notes. We're going to go over some quick numbers. So the next time you get to arguing with these out of Africa niggas and they try to come with numbers, because I got challenged for a debate. They may see this later. The brother was just way too disrespectful. Like, come on, man. He wanted to argue the fact about the black diaspora out of Africa and blah 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 blah. So I'm going to give you my quick down and dirty numbers real quick. These some notes that I was creating for his ass, but I decided not to do it. But I'm going to share with you guys tonight. As a result of conflicts during her reign, Nzinga force took hundreds of thousands of captives, allowing the queen to sell nearly 200,000 slaves directly to the Portuguese.
Damn.
This is not including her Dutch connection, also, because she also was giving body to the Dutch. Now, Queen Nzinga was taking people from the area of Angola. They were taking over the Angolan area. Okay, and just point of order. A lot of these African countries were not even named until the 1900s. Okay, a lot of these it didn't exist, and there were way more tribes over there too. Anywho, as a result, she 200,000 to the Portuguese. I'm pulling some notes real quick that I created. We're going to talk about just domestically in the continent of America, the domestic slave trade, and this ain't got nothing to do with Africa. Okay, this ain't got nothing to do with Africa at all. This is the American slave trade. It's going to cover some of the information from Africa because Africa only, I think, 388,000 slaves came here, supposedly survived here. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah, I hear you good.
All right, cool. All right, make sure. So domestic slave trade flows from 1790 to 1860. Write this down. 1790 to 1860. Why is that? Because the early 1800s, 1820, 1830, cotton gins were being created, and the cotton explosion was about to peak and get on their way, where they need way more bodies to come help pick this cotton, harvest this cotton, and they could not bring any more Africans into the borders of North America. So what happened was the Negro population up north were now being kidnapped, rounded up, put in box carts, put on what do you call those things? Riverboats, and been shipped down South Mississippi River. Let's look at the number of people that the northern states were exporting and look at the dates. So when they told you your people were trying to run north for freedom, they were just trying to run back home, where they were from, before they got kidnapped. The movie 12 Years a Slave shows you that. Nobody paid attention to that, right? The movie first comes on, the guy's in New York, stopping with his wife for a Birkin bag. The black slave runs in. White slave master come behind him. Jasper. That's the beginning of the movie 12 Years a Slave. He got duped to go to D.C. to play on the violin. They got him drunk, threw him in a cage, shipped his ass down to Louisiana. The white guy slapped him on the face, changed his name to Plecker. Remember that scene? This is what we're talking about. This domestic slave trade was the only slave trade that any Negro in America needs to be studying right now. That African slave trade had nothing to do with your black ass. I'm on record saying that. Quote me. I don't care. This is the one you should focus on. All these so-called Indian affiliated, Native American, and indigenous. This is the one for you too. You kicked it off. 1 million American Indians were shipped out of America into Britain and the adjoining islands, not to pick cotton, not to harvest sugarcane, but to dive for pearls. Pearl divers. I can show you that too. Pearl diving and sugarcane plantations were the worst type of slavery. Niggas picking cotton had it made in the shade, literally. They made them dive for pearls until they vomited seawater and died. Pearl divers was a form of slavery for the early American Indians who were shipped out by the millions. So don't give me that out of Africa stuff. Virginia, 500,000 estimated total sold to the South, often described as the largest slave exporting state. Virginia was the largest slave exporting state between 1790 and 1859. Watch these numbers pile up way more than these 388,000 Africans who were shipped to North America. This is the slave trade you should be studying and worrying about. Maryland, 185,000 slaves sold, major export after soil depletion. Kentucky, 71,000, significant but smaller export. North Carolina, tens of thousands. Tennessee, tens of thousands. Virginia alone accounts for roughly 500,000 forced removals. Don't tell me about no Trail of Tears. I don't want to hear nothing about no Trail of Tears until we deal with this right here. Until we deal with this right here. Now, where did they import these people to? Mississippi imported 235,000 between 1820 and 1860. Cotton boom destination. Louisiana imported 124,000. That's probably where she got her slaves from. Marietta Thresher, Marietta Thresher got her slaves from this import of the 124,000.
Yeah, that was the antebellum period that Coincoin was in.
Come on, talk black to me. 300,000 in Alabama. Population growth suggests massive importation between 1810 and 1860. Explosive cotton. Arkansas, tens of thousands. Texas, tens of thousands. The core Virginia Mississippi flow. Check this out. The Virginia Mississippi via trade and river system. Enslaved people sold into Richmond, Alexander, and Norfolk. Merchants and coffee and coffles. That's when you chain them together. Coffles are shipping sent to Natchez, Vicksburg, Mississippi Delta. Mississippi enslaved population in 1810 was 17,000. By 1860, it was 436,000 enslaved. Enslaved is a system. A slave is a person. One more time. Enslave is a system. A slave is a person. Does that make sense? So the enslavement is the system. So when they say enslaved, 436,000 were enslaved in some type of way. They were in a perpetual debted state of probation or parole or some type of criminal aspect to where they can be locked back up. That's all enslavement means. Because in order for you to be called a slave, you have to lose your rights under civil mortus. And that's where all Negro, black, colored folks were. Civil mortus. They were outside of civic law. That's why they had to have civil rights restored or given to them because they were not civil people. They were outside of the jurisdiction. Civil mortus, black people. So 436,000 don't necessarily represents people out picking cotton. 436,000 is in the system, enslaved. I'll continue and land my plane. The growth reflects massive domestic importation, natural reproduction, comparative scale, Atlantic slave trade. Watch this: 388,000. Domestic slave trade, 1 million. Domestic slave trade moved over 600,000 more people than directly imported from Africa into the U.S. I dropped the fucking mic. I'm done. I yield the floor. I don't want to hear that African stuff no more.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for allowing me to grace the platform. Blackbeard, it was truly a pleasure. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and grateful. I want to give high honors and perfect praise also to the chat. You guys have been phenomenal. I do want to just give a real gentle reminder that 404 is the area code of Atlanta. It's kind of like a thing out there for anybody who's not a native. So on 404 day, which is April 4th, I will be doing a conscious kickball event where I'm going to go against another uh, online content creator. It'll be hosted by Ugly Money Nietzsche. He's like a red pill dude. I've already got my team put together, got like maybe 2 or 3 spaces. And I think I'm holding one of those spaces for M.O.I as well. So it's probably like 1 or 2 spaces. So if you want to be a part of my team, you can hit that. You can scan the QR code in the top right hand corner. Or if you want to go against me, I've said some things that have probably pissed a lot of people off. So, you can go against me, but you're probably not going to win, but, you can still tap in that way as well. So with that said, anybody else who wants me to come on the platform, I'm kind of doing a little podcast tour where I just kind of go, and we'll do this, just dope conversations and whatever like that. But that's pretty much all I had. Minister of Information, thank you so much for
Thank
allowing
you.
me to grace the platform.
Appreciate you, man, for even taking time out to come up here, man. It was definitely a pleasure as always. And like I always say, man, you can always catch me on CrumbTV. Always. Much gratitude. Blackbeard, brother, you got any closing words?
Yeah, man. Once again, salute to the brother CrumbTV. I got a lot of respect for him, especially after hearing that they took his YouTube channel and he's been doing this for a while. And I know, the balls it takes, what I'm saying, to continue to push that line. And I mean, that's a form of a sacrifice because that man page could have been monetized. He could have been making some money, but this is just what comes with staying down in the trenches and getting knee deep in the alligator pit with telling the truth. So much, love to him. Salute to the brother M.O.I. once again. You stay putting heads under the guillotine, as usual. And I'm just very, very appreciative to be here and to contribute to this enlightenment. And I thank everybody in the chat for showing up. We're going to continue to work into the future. And and peace and power to the people, and hopefully a good week is ahead for all of you. So, I'm just glad to be here tonight, and it was a good one, man.
Yeah, hey, listen, man. It was so much more that I wanted to drop jewels on, but time flies when you're having fun, man. I don't have anything, man. I appreciate y'all so much for joining us, and let's do it again, Crumb, sometime next week, man.
It's a date.
All right, peace, brother. Peace, y'all.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?